The Indian Buddhist philosopher Nāgārjuna is widely considered to have been one of the most important figures in the history of Buddhism and is even known as the second Buddha. Nāgārjuna is well known even today for his scholarship as the author of the Mūlamadhyamakakārikā, or the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, one of the most important philosophical texts of Mahāyāna Buddhism, which led to the formation of the Madhyamaka school within that tradition by Nāgārjuna himself. What is not very well known about Nāgārjuna, however, is that he is often depicted in Buddhist iconography as possessing serpent-like characteristics. In fact, this follows directly from his name, as the Sanskrit term Nag literally means a serpent, and Nāgārjuna itself may be translated as the Noble Serpent. Buddhist mythology provides an adequate explanation for how Nāgārjuna came to be known by this name. It is said, according to traditional accounts, that the Nagas are non-human, serpent-like beings who were the guardians of profound Buddhist teachings, which they had hidden away from the world. But the Nagas chose Nāgārjuna, the human representation, to receive these teachings, allowing him to reintroduce these teachings to the human realm. These esoteric teachings were in fact none other than the now famous Prajna Paramita, or the Perfection of Wisdom sutras of Mahāyāna Buddhism. Nāgārjuna therefore became the most extensive commentator on these sutras and the explainer of their true meaning. However, this story does not tell us the origin of the Nagas. Who were they? Why were they the guardians of the esoteric Buddhist teachings? In fact, the Nagas are also widely mentioned as important figures in the tales of the Hindu religion and seem to have had a significant role to play in almost all the traditions of the Indian subcontinent. In this video, we will discover the secret identity of the Nagas and find out who they really were. We'll also discuss the surprising connection between the Nagas, the serpent deities of ancient India, and the Kundalini, the serpent power that rises in the spine of the advanced spiritual practitioner. As per the tantra tradition, could the Nagas really be connected with the Kundalini? Find out in this video. The Nagas are found in various Asian religious traditions as a divine race of half-human, half-cobra beings that reside in the netherworld or Patal Lok. Occasionally, the Nagas take human or part-human form. According to Hindu Puranic tradition, they are considered to be the descendants of the sage Rishi Kashyap and Kadru, the daughter of Daksha, who was one of the Prajapati, or the agents of the creation of the universe. According to Hindu mythology, it is believed that rituals devoted to the Nagas have been taking place across the Indian subcontinent for at least 2,000 years. In fact, several communities in South Asia claim to be descendants of the Nagas. These include the Nagavanshi Kshatriya communities, which are spread all over India, the Khmer people of Cambodia, and also the Tamil Elam people of Sri Lanka. Perhaps the most important depiction of the Naga people in Hinduism is in the manifestation of Sheshnag. In the Puranas, the Hindu god Vishnu is depicted as reclining on Sheshnag as his bed on the ocean of milk, or the Kshir Sagar. It is said that Sheshnag holds all the planets of the universe on his hoods, while he constantly sings the glories of Vishnu, who rests under the shadow of his hoods. Interestingly, the sage and author of the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, is considered to be a manifestation of none other than Sheshnag himself. Later in this video, we will discuss the surprising connection between Kundalini Yoga and the Nagas. Could this connection be the reason for symbolizing Patanjali as Sheshnag? The co-founder of the Theosophical Society, Helena Blavatsky, in her book The Secret Doctrine, argued that the serpents are not evil, but rather guardians of hidden wisdom. This, she argued, was not just true for Indian religious traditions, but even in esoteric traditions outside the Indian subcontinent. For example, Blavatsky highlights how in the Garden of Eden, the serpent only offers Eve knowledge, which, despite its later demonization in Christian theology, can be interpreted as an act of awakening. Further, in Egyptian mythology, the cobra on the pharaoh's crown symbolizes divine wisdom and protection. Even among the Druids, the priestly class of ancient Celtic cultures, serpents were revered as sacred symbols of hidden wisdom. Using all these examples, Blavatsky forcefully argued that Nagas, like many esoteric symbols, have a dual nature. They are sometimes benevolent, but sometimes malevolent. In her interpretation, the serpents of wisdom were the enlightened beings guiding early humanity. But later, in degenerated mythologies, serpents came to represent deception and danger. This dual symbolism is found in various traditions, where serpents are both protectors but also tricksters. Later in this video, we will discuss the great Buddhist teacher Milarepa's interaction with the Nagas, which highlights their dual nature as both protectors and deceivers. Given that Patanjali is considered to be a manifestation of Sheshanag, a certain connection between yogic practices and the Naga beings is inevitable. Importantly, however, Patanjali makes no mention of the concept of Kundalini in his Yoga Sutras. In fact, the concept of Kundalini Yoga is connected to the practice of Tantra. But could Tantra itself then have a connection with the Nagas? An insight into this connection can be understood through the writings of Sir John Woodruff, a British scholar and judge of the Calcutta High Court in colonial India, who later became a scholar of Tantra and became responsible for popularizing Tantra as a philosophy in the West. In his book, The Serpent Power, Woodruff, publishing under the pseudonym of Arthur Avalon, provides a detailed exposition on the Kundalini Yoga and the chakra system, drawing from ancient, obscure Sanskrit texts which had never been translated before. These texts, he highlights, describe the Kundalini as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, lying dormant in the Mūladhara chakra. However, as Shakti, the source of spiritual power, is awakened during the practice of Tantra, the coiled serpent rises through the chakras along a special nerve, known as the Sushumna Nadi. When fully awakened, the Kundalini creates the union of Shakti and Shiva, which represents the realization of ultimate consciousness. While Woodruff does not explicitly equate the Kundalini energy with the Naga beings, certain similarities between both are made clear. In both Hindu and Buddhist traditions, Nagas are often associated with hidden wisdom, spiritual protection, and transformation. Similarly, Kundalini is described as a hidden, latent power that must be awakened through spiritual discipline. In fact, certain tantric traditions, particularly in Bengal and South India, incorporate Naga worship, linking serpents to Shakti and the divine feminine, a theme that is central to Woodruff's writings, including the serpent power. We have discussed how Blavatsky viewed the serpent as an archetypal force, present in all the esoteric spiritual traditions of the world, as a being that guides us towards awakening. One such symbolic representation of the serpent is the Uraorus, a symbol present in both ancient Egyptian iconography as well as the Greek Hermetic tradition of esoteric spirituality. The Uraorus is used as a symbol in the tradition of alchemy as well, where it has multiple esoteric meanings. An Uraorus is a symbol depicting a snake, or in some instances, a dragon eating its own tail. It is often interpreted as a symbol for eternal cyclic renewal, or the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. In fact, Blavatsky was familiar with the symbolism of the Uraorus and used it in the seal of the Theosophical Society founded by her towards the end of the 19th century. But could the Uraorus, which is believed to have had its origins in ancient Egypt, be related to the Naga beings worshipped in ancient India? Surprisingly, there are references to the imagery of the Uraorus even in ancient Indian spiritual texts. For instance, the Aitareya Brahman, An ancient Vedic text composed over 2000 years ago describes the nature of Vedic rituals by comparing them to a snake biting its own tail. The circularity of the snake biting its own tail, after all, only represents the eternality of the universe and time itself, as per the Hindu understanding of the world. In Hinduism, time is believed to be cyclical, divided into 4 ages or yuga. At the end of the Kali Yuga, the age of destruction and degeneration, a new creation springs forth once again, beginning the cycle of creation. The immortal soul continues to live throughout these 4 ages, and hence the Vedic rituals, which were believed to sustain the creation of the world, must continue like the circular snake biting its own tail. In the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad, we find another reference to the Uraorus in the context of the Kundalini energy. The Upanishad states as follows: "The divine power, Kundalini, shines like the stem of a young lotus, like a snake coiled around upon herself. She holds her tail in her mouth and lies resting, half asleep, at the base of the body." This symbolism of the Kundalini energy holding her tail in her mouth is directly related to the symbolism of the Uraorus. Hence, certain scholars have interpreted the Uraorus as the cycle of samsara and the Kundalini as an internal replication of this very cycle within the human being. The German anthropologist Wolf-Dieter Stoll compares the Kundalini energy with Shakti herself. He writes, "When Shakti is united with Shiva, she is a radiant, gentle goddess. But when she is separated from him, she turns into a terrible, destructive fury. She is the endless Uraorus, the dragon biting its own tail, symbolizing the cycle of samsara." Thus it appears that the very force which creates the cycle of the world is also the force that frees us from its bondage. The Uraorus, symbolizing the cycle of samsara, is the very same force which in its manifestation as Kundalini frees us from samsara. The uniting factor in both these symbols is, of course, the serpent. Could this be the lost wisdom of the Naga beings of ancient India? An interesting interaction with the Naga beings is also found in the life of the great Buddhist teacher, Milarepa. It is said that during one of his meditative retreats, Milarepa stayed near the dwelling place of some Naga beings. He unintentionally disturbed them with his spiritual practices, and they cursed him with illness. This is a common theme in Tibetan belief, where Nagas are believed to cause skin diseases, fevers, and other ailments when provoked. But then, as Milarepa responded to them with compassion instead of aggression, the Naga beings also took back the curse and rewarded him with esoteric teachings, just like they rewarded Nāgārjuna. Maybe it was all a test by the Naga beings to see if Milarepa still had an ounce of aggression left in his mind, given his past experience as a murderer. This story leaves us with the following lesson. We may approach esoteric spiritual beings in our pursuit of knowledge, but we need to approach with respect and reverence. Any hastiness in our seeking or an uncritical rejection of the possibility of their existence will not help us in our practical spiritual pursuits. Perhaps we may conclude that instead of completely rejecting these mythological descriptions of beings, we should keep an open mind to receive their teachings. What do you think about the Nagas? Do you believe that they exist? Have you come across any other stories involving them? Let us know in the comments below.